Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Tonight's the February 28th, 2019 Town Board meeting. Would everyone rise for the pledge, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Couple of announcements. Well, winter's almost over, not according to our highway superintendent.
It's almost over.
He's out diligently sanding and salting all the roads every day, even if it doesn't snow. So, earlier in the month, I met with our Alliance of Towns, I call it Fishkill, Wappingers, LaGrange, Poughkeepsie, Beacon, about our water and sewer needs. We're starting to put together mapping of all the municipalities' wells, infrastructure, aquifers, and we have going to be contracting with a mutual engineering company that most of us use to see if they could put together that mapping. Also, we'll put together the aquifer protection laws that all of us have agreed that we would implement. This group that I put together is working out really well. We all have the same desires and needs in our communities, and we just want to help each other. I've said in the past that, you know, possibly the county doesn't help us as much as we need, so we're going to help ourselves out. We all look for shared services that saves tax dollars, and it seems like we're always running into roadblocks somewhere. So I don't want to point any fingers to anybody yet. I'll give them more chances before I do that, and I will keep everyone posted. I met with Behan Consulting Firm. There are planning consultants we hired when we proposed and passed our moratorium on the I-zones. He has gathered a lot of information, and he needs some clarification on items, and I'll be giving he'll be giving the board a complete review of his assessment and his opinions. We're going to do that at the March workshop. At the end of last month, the town board attended the Dutchess County Chiefs of Police Association dinner. They installed their new officers for their executive committee. I'm proud to say that our chief of police was installed as their president, and our Lieutenant John Wood was installed as the treasurer. So congratulations to them both. And thank you, everyone, for attending that. It was a really nice event. It is every year. We meet a lot of different people there from different municipalities, different police agencies, and, of course, our own Dutchess County Sheriff, Butch Anderson. He was there. He's always there to support the men and women of law enforcement. He is really incredible, and it was really nice event. We had another police department head meeting. Councilman Marinaro attend every month. We go over there and discuss what's the going-ons at the police department. I'm happy to say things are moving forward with our K-9. We're purchasing that very soon, very soon. Yesterday, one of our town residents who wishes to be anonymous, she gave a very generous donation to the police department for our K-9 program. The board will pass a resolution tonight giving me authority to sign the contract to purchase the K-9. The PBA also has done a terrific job in getting donations for this program. Dutchess County Legislator John Metzger, he has been working on a shared services grant for the police vehicle for the K-9, and he has secured it. He has secured some dollars from our district attorney's office and the rest from the county legislature. So a big thank you to all the parties involved, to the generous donators, and for our great town, everybody else who helps out. And thank you to our chief. He's really running our department wonderfully. Thank you. We also had another Business and Economic Development Committee meeting. Councilman Marinaro and I attended. We had guest speakers, Mary Kay Verba from Dutchess County Tourism, and Owen Rafter. He's the commissioner of the Dutchess County Planning. Also, I might add, he grew up in East Fishkill. They came to discuss ways tourism and planning can help economic development in our town. It's extremely important, believe it or not, tourism. It generates over $300 million or $600 million? $600 million in the county yearly. Dutchess County Planning is very impressed with our proposed zoning amendments, which we'll be voting on tonight. And this has been going on for at least 6 months, this process. It's unfortunate that it's been taking this long, but it actually gives us a more encompassing law. Nothing's perfect. Well, this is a start to it. If we need to do tweaks, that we could do that along the way. And I'm proud of our town board, our Economic Development Committee, and all the professionals who care about our town's future. East Fishkill will continue to lead the county in all aspects of development because of our willingness to try new policies like this. So thank you to all who have done so much work the past 6 to 8 months on this zoning amendments. We also discussed grants at the Economic Development Committee meeting and local business outreach. I'd like to thank Mike O'Brien of that committee, who has initiated the business outreach. We developed a postcard that was mailed to all the businesses in town, and basically it described what the Business and Economic Development Committee does. And what we're trying to do is get a registry of all these businesses in town. We provided a link where they could go online and enter their name and information so that the town can contact them in the future when we have meetings, or we have what's going on possibly with traffic problems when we do some projects in town. So this will be a huge aid for us to gather all this information. So thank you for everybody for that. Along with economic development, I've had meetings with some people regarding the east and west campuses for new businesses. They have all sorts of questions about water, sewer, traffic, which is great because they have a want to come to this town. I know it's going to be very successful down that corridor, and this is just the beginning. At the beginning of the month, I had a meeting with a few residents from Worley Homes, which I see a few of them here. We have another public hearing tonight to purchase that water system. There's many moving parts going on with that. That's why this has taken a bit more longer than we wanted to. It's, it's very confusing even for me. I deal with this every day, but it's still hard to keep everything in place. We have a lot of water projects going on right now, and they seem to all be melding together. But we're going to move forward tonight with the plan, and hopefully everybody will vote to approve that tonight. I'm appreciative of the residents that do come out from Worley Homes to take the time to meet with me, to discuss what the plan is. It's hard for a lot of residents to come out during the day. You work, you have children, you have your lives that get in the way, and it's sometimes easier to talk to your neighbors. So I appreciate you taking the time to come here and field the questions from your neighbors. That's what makes us a great place to live, that we could count on our neighbors. I attended another quarterly meeting with Wappinger Central School District Superintendent Jose Carrion and his staff, and he had a bunch of us mayors and supervisors there from the Southern Dutchess area. This quarterly meeting, it's a great time for sharing information. A good example of that is we're discussing how the towns could share more information with them regarding developments, so they can accurately plan for their school enrollments. I explained how the towns contact them about the developments during the planning process, and I explained to them about New York State secret review and how they must identify the impacts to the community, including the schools. So a lot of the times we send the information to the school district and they really never comment back, but this was a perfect example for me to clarify this. And afterwards, I got a lot of information to one of the assistant superintendents, and he understood a little bit better after speaking to our planner about that. So thank you to the superintendent's office on initiating these meetings. They are very helpful. Later that day, I had a meeting here at Town Hall with Dana Smith, the Commissioner of Dutchess County Department of Emergency Response, the Deputy Commissioner, Ken Roman, and our Chief of Police, Matt Orsino. The Department of Emergency Response has been very helpful, going to be very helpful to our dispatchers. They're going to be helping them with some training in April, which we will be participating in. We also had a very clear discussion about dispatching. Dutchess County 911 is not capable right now to handle our dispatching needs if we needed them to. The dispatching of emergency calls and police calls are very different. Not only that, our computer platform and software are not compatible with the counties. So if we were to do something in the future, that would be an upgrade that the town has to absorb, and that's in the neighborhood of $250,000 or more. They would need also dedicated dispatchers for the amount of volume that we have in our town and train them for the difference in the dispatching. There might be in the future a possibility of a shared service for this that the county possibly can deliver, but it's not on the radar as of now. This would have to come from a need from the towns in Southern Dutchess, possibly to get together and show them what our needs are. But it was very informative. The chief and I both learned things that we didn't know, actually, and they do a great job, actually, over there, and we're appreciative of what they do. So thank you to the commissioner and deputy commissioner for coming down. Now, a big meeting we had this month was with the EPA and our professionals about the water line project going up Route 82. That's the Hopewell North Water District. We finally got to meet with them since the government shutdown. We had multiple meetings planned, but with the government shutdown, we had to postpone them. There has been a discrepancy with the amounts in which the EPA is to reimburse the town for the preparation, installation, and ready for the water source for that water district. They have charged the town of East Fishkill with the job of finding the water source and producing it and having it ready for them when they are done with their project. So with that, it's not only did we have to find the source, we had the property, so we didn't have to purchase the property, but we have to get the permits, drill the test wells, perform the 72-hour pump test to see what analyze the water yields, the engineering, the borrowing of the funds, the construction, the overseeing of the whole project. And with that, 4 or 5 years ago, and maybe it was more, I think, when this first started, they came to us and they said, how much would this cost? And basically, we had no engineering in place. We had to just put a guess to it. And I think we guessed around $2.5 million, somewhere around there. And basically, they told us it's on a handshake, that they don't sign a contract with any municipalities. It's on the faith of the federal government that they will pay us back. Well, that's a little hard to swallow since we have to decide to borrow the money to do this. But we move forward anyway, and fast forward 4 years, and I think, thank God we didn't sign a contract because the costs have nearly doubled. So that was where the discrepancy came in. We were arguing about the amount. So to make a long story short, I'm sorry, it's not true, but we finally agreed on a number that the town is comfortable with, and hopefully the project will be done on time. We're waiting for some more approvals to be done, and we're going to be going out to bid on the expansion of the filter building in the Hopewell Hamlet area, right in the back here. Later that day, I also met with Supervisor Bob Lacola from Fishkill and his staff and my staff to discuss the water that we do purchase from the village of Fishkill and the town of Fishkill. We're possibly looking into expanding that amount of water that we purchase from them to utilize down the Route 52 corridor. We did try to get a assignment of 500,000 gallons from Dutchess County from the 2 million gallons a day that they provide to Global Foundries. But as I've said many times, this agreement has to be approved by Dutchess County Water, Wastewater, and the Water Consortium Board, and it has not happened. It has been many years. So we have to look at other options. We have to look for the possibility of expanding our own infrastructure, possibly. Due to the historic significance of the structure, efforts should be made to conserve it in a way that allows the community to appreciate its value. We applaud the passions of the Friends of Griffin's Tavern and the work they have done to foster understanding of the tavern's place in East Fishkill history. We are pleased to hear that Royal Karting has offered to relocate the ruins and that the town of East Fishkill will store what remains of the tavern until an appropriate site can be found on town-owned properties, maybe such as Loma Park. We are hopeful the tavern ruins can be reassembled soon in a location that is safe and accessible to the public. We support the town's efforts toward improving access to and beautifying the area around the bronze marker installed in 1928 near the site. The East Fishkill Historical Society has had great success in working with the town government and private property owners to preserve other local historic structures. We have found that increased access to these buildings enhances the community's knowledge of our cultural and historic heritage. Sincerely, Debbie Chanel, the president of the East Fishkill Historical Society. So I appreciate the letter from the Historical Society. So the Friends of Griffin Tavern say that removing this and putting this building at a different site is demolishing it. Well, we feel differently. We feel that that's preserving its history. The town's in no positions to step on property owners' rights. The property owner wants to use that site for other uses, and they have all the right to do so. If the rubble had preservation status, then it would be a different story, but this is what we're dealing with now. So I'll keep the board informed as to what is going to happen with this site, but this has been discussed in a long detail, and they have tried to come up with a plan for the past 10 years. The property owner has been waiting, and now he wants to move forward with a demolition of it, and he's still willing to transport it at his cost. So I think the town will take him up on that offer. I was invited by the East Fishkill Library for a visit, Director Gloria Government, and a few of their trustees, Rocco Martino and Tracy Supa. They gave me a tour of the facility, and we had a nice discussion on how the town could help the library. We also discussed reciprocal agreements that we have in place. And also, they had some ideas to do something on Channel 22 called a Book Corner, and possibly a couple other ideas. So look forward to seeing that happen, and thank you to them for their hospitality. I was contacted by Congressman Sean Patrick Maloney's office. FEMA is investing almost $4 million to the state of New York to fund the construction of a microgrid to provide electricity to the Four Corners electrical service area. This area is known for long power outages after storms, so this will act like a mini generator for that area. If you have any questions at all, please call the Congressman Sean Patrick Maloney's office. They'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have. Yesterday was a busy day. Our town professionals and I met with Stephen Gruber from Renewage, which they're the firm that was hired to implement the grant that we received for the Hillside Lake Stormwater Filtration Project. We discussed when this project will begin. We have to get it done this year. He was happy to see that we've been trying to lower the level of the lake. Currently, we're almost at the level to open the next set of valves, which is good. We started to do this last year, but everybody knows it was one of the wettest seasons on record, and we didn't have much progress. We need to lower the level of the lake as much as possible. Empty would be best. This way it could dry out, and we could get machines in there to perform the work. We discussed the budget and how the grant works, and I believe with 2 grants that we had in total, we're almost 1.2 million. Is that correct, or 1.1 million?
Well, including the town contribution as well.
With the town contribution. So the town contribution is about $250,000, and we could do that through like work that we can perform through our highway department, planning, legal, engineering fees from our professionals. We're preparing to do a flyover and a topography analysis, weather permitting, in April. Then we have the DEC permits already in place to remove the sediment that we have identified, and the bulk of the work will happen this summer. We're hoping for July and August. Now that we have to contact the grant administrator to check on how the work will be performed and clarify the cost percentages and how that will be determined. Once we have those answers, we will be having a weekly go-to meetings with Stephen Gruber's staff and ours to make sure that all the tasks that we're assigned, them and ours, are being done. It's exciting to get this project finally started. It's been a long time coming, and there's always a but. We've been contacted by DEC Dam Safety, and they're waiting for our annual safety inspection of the dam, which is right now is in the process of being performed. We're really hoping for the best because we really don't want to spend any dollars on this dam that we don't have to, and take it away from the work that we want to do on the lake. So I'll keep everybody informed as to the report from the dam safety inspection. Yesterday, Deputy Supervisor and I, and Councilman Bepan, and County Legislator Horton and Metzger, we all attended the County Executive State of the County address. It was held up in Hyde Park at the Culinary Institute of America. The county executive did a great job. He highlighted a few aspects from East Fishkill, namely the new county park, which will be on the property around Lake Walton. They're calling it the Lake Walton Preserve. It will be an all-inclusive passive recreation 200-plus acre county park. He also mentioned the economic development going on here in East Fishkill. He mentioned about Global Foundries revving up production to full capacity, and also about iPark's new businesses. They're coming in, and more of them are to come now into our town. I just want to be clear, though, that the county helps us in a few ways, but the ability for these companies to come here and do business is a direct result from the town board sitting here, not Dutchess County. He also mentioned not only recreation and economic development, but he mentioned economic development throughout the county, which is wonderful. But we worry about what happens in our town. He mentioned also, this is directly in the town saying here. Yeah, so we're the ones who make the decisions to enable the businesses to come here. When the businesses want to start, they don't come to the county, they come here. They have to check out what's going on with regulations locally first. So we're the ones to enable them to come here. It was a very nice address. I'm not downplaying it. It was very nice, but sometimes we don't get the credit that we're deserved for the development in our town. Last night after that, Deputy Supervisor Cassidy and I and the attorney had a meeting with the fire commissioners. We try to have a bi-monthly meeting, which is great, it's very productive. We had many questions and concerns answered. Many people were concerned about the roof coming off the firehouse right next door. I'm happy to say, thank God, nobody was injured. So the public understands there was a little discrepancy, I guess, on social media. People were discussing about the roof coming off. So the buildings are not owned by East Fishkill Fire District. The firehouses are owned by a non-for-profit. And the fire district owns the trucks and pays rent to the firehouses to store the trucks and equipment. So that's how it operates. So no public dollars are going to fix the roof. It's a non-for-profit, and they have their own insurance policies and whatnot. So I just wanted to make that very clear. And I'd just like to thank all our men and women in the fire district and the EMS services. They do a tremendous job, and we're really lucky to have them. They save the taxpayers a tremendous amount of money to be volunteer. And with that, that's it. That's it. So with that, can I have a call to order? Can I have the roll call, please, clerk?
He's not gonna do that next.
Councilperson Cassidy?
Present.
Councilman Marinero?
Present.
Councilman Franco?
Present.
Councilman Beepin?
Present.
Supervisor Delasandro?
Present. Thank you, clerk. We have 4 public hearings tonight. The first one, you know, there's many people here. Why don't we do the first one, the Hopewell West or the Worley Homes one? Is that okay, clerk? I'm
Yes.
going out of order.
So which one is this?
So, that is number 4. We're gonna do that first. So do I have a motion to reopen the closed public hearing for the Hopewell West Water District?
So move.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Public hearing is now reopened. So this has been a long time coming in the process. We closed the public hearing a while ago because we had different thoughts about where the water source was going to be and the route that we were going to take and the best financial way to do that. So we have decided with the route down 376, and also there's a couple pieces to this, how this is going to go. Tonight, we will vote on this plan and to approve it with the borrowing that we have estimated from the beginning. But we are also going to couple that with a submission to New York State, what is a WIA grant? Is that the WIA grant, right?
Well, that would be the next part of it.
That's the next part of it. That's not going to happen tonight, that is going to be afterwards, but we need to have this done first. The state needs to show that we already own the district and have a plan of action already in place to apply for the grant. We have a very good indication from them that we have, could be high on the list to receive the grant, which is very good news. We are coupling that with another water district, Revere Park, which has many problems also. And together, the two of them will qualify high points on their scale to receive a grant. So once we complete this, we'll then start the submission for the other, for the grant, and we are going to hope for the best. But I have a good feeling that we can get it. But no matter what, we will get done what we have the map plan and report here to do. So I want to open it up to the public for anybody to come up and speak about the proposed water district, Hopewell West.
You want Want to do an overview?
I'm sorry?
You want to do an overview with him?
Yeah, you want to do an overview first?
Yeah.
Okay, sure. Well, as the supervisor said, we've been looking at this now for a few years. We've been looking at different alternatives. There's been a lot of moving parts, along the way. We looked at connecting to the hamlet. We looked at possibly connecting to Wappingers. We've been looking at Fishkill Plains. In the midst of all this, we had to do a significant rehab at Fishkill Plains this past summer. As a result of that rehab, we were able to bring our well yields up to a place where we can actually provide an interim connection, or that's what we're proposing with the health department to do, an interim connection to Revere and Worley Homes to get them water sooner rather than later as a phased approach. So with that said, that's the course that we settled on, going to Fishkill Plains. Again, I mentioned it was an interim connection because Fishkill Plains can't supply all these systems on the peak demand days, and that's why we're going to run a line down 376 and tie into Hopewell Glen, where we have a connection with the county that'll provide redundancy on those extreme usage days. So that's the course we're on right now. We updated the map plan report to show the updated costs, updated scope of work. Also, since that time, I might note that the Office of the Audit of Comptroller Office in Albany has lowered the threshold for how much an individual or a household can pay for water and sewer as well, but in this case, water. So we did have to, scale back, scope a little bit. The other thing we're also experiencing since the last major water line we've done is that costs are a lot higher today than they have been in years past for this work that we're doing. So we also updated, to today's prices and what it's costing us now to do this similar work. So with that, we have the updated map plan report. It's been on the website if anyone has any questions.
The annual fee.
The annual fee, I think we're at $865. So which is-
$865.
We were at, I think, $902 last summer.
903, yeah, 902.
Yeah. And again, we're looking at this as phase one. As the supervisor said, we're going to apply for the WIA 2 grant. All indication is that we should be in real good position to receive that grant. And with those monies, we can tackle the inner distribution of the system itself and try to replace as much piping as possible.
The grant would provide us to hopefully replace most of the pipe, which would be a home run, so thank you very much. Does the board have any comments or questions? No. Anybody from the audience wish to come up?
Thank you. Rahul Verma at 31 Elk Road.
How are you, Raul?
Good, good. First off, I'd like to thank you for recognizing the contribution of the homeowners, my neighbors here, and meeting with us over the last several years to get this thing moving along. A few questions on this. The 700 linear feet you have shown here, that does not include the WIA grant, is that correct?
Correct.
That's right.
With that WIA grant, what would that number increase to? I think you just said it would not be all of the piping in the neighborhood, but the majority of it?
Preliminary estimate is about 60%.
With the WIA grant?
Yes.
Okay. And the other thing I did not see in here was a schedule. Now, I know we've talked about this before. It's, we're all anxious to get this thing moving along. Is there a schedule in mind if we close this public hearing tonight?
Go ahead, Attorney Canal.
So if the town board proceeds tonight and adopts the resolution, we then have to publish it and wait 30 days before it becomes effective on this end. We will immediately advise the current owners of the system that the district has been established, and their attorney is ready to file the petition with the New York State Public Service Commission. And there's a process that has to be gone through. All the users of the system will be notified by the Public Service Commission. There's a process to go through, and once a decision and order comes out of the Public Service Commission, at that point, we would then be in a position to take title to the water system. Once we take title to the water system, we would then be able to go through the process of doing the improvements that are outlined in the report.
Well, we also have to do the design for
Right.
the connection, so that's going to take time, health
And
department approval.
the Public Service Commission process, it takes usually at least 6 months.
Understood, right. Okay. So are we looking at about 2-ish years then? Is that what I'm hearing out of, to get
I would
that
think-
water
I would
turned
think
on?
summer of '20.
Okay, summer of 20, all right, very good. And then finally, the water system purchase price you have here of $100,000, that seemed to have stayed static over the last
Yes.
several years. Now, I don't know if you're aware that water system is getting worse and worse, so I question the value of that at 100,000. We've had 2 failures in the last 2 weeks, right? Which,
So-
and the notifications aside, which were horrible by Hopewell Service Corp., the last one, the boil water notice, just somehow didn't get to the majority of the homeowners.
Well, at this,
Okay, well,
at this
suppose it
point,
didn't get to anyone. I certainly didn't get one at my address.
and I understand the frustration, and when we did negotiate with them, we did try to obviously tried to take it for free. They weren't having that. If we're to go back and change it now, then we'd have to delay this
Well, and
public
part of the
hearing.
problem is, the question, I understand your point, but the question is it worth fighting for that? Because of the fact that they're not, if they don't agree to a number and we did eminent domain and got into that kind of a proceeding, actually, evaluators may give it a higher rating and value.
Okay.
And the cost of us doing that would probably come close to half, if not 3/4 of the $100,000. So that's been an internal debate for quite some time. As the supervisor did indicate, we, for a long time, maintained we wouldn't pay anything, we would just take the system, and that didn't work. And so we did come up with that number that they agreed to. So it is, yes, is it worth it? Probably not, but, is it worth the fight otherwise?
All right, fair enough.
The thing I would like to add, though, to your point about not getting notification, when we take the system over, there are alarms and measures that we can take so we can make sure we get notices out and are able to respond quicker than what's being done now.
No, sure, and thank you for that. Again, my point, I just questioned that $100,000 valuation. Looking at the unit breakdown cost, even taking 10,000 off of that buys us a lot more distribution main.
We questioned it
to
from
get
the
through.
beginning,
So
yeah.
If you could please reconsider that, we would certainly appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
I guess you guys know who I am, right?
Mrs. Walker, how are you?
I'd like to thank the town for the effort on behalf of Worley Homes and the nightmare known as the water system that we have, that we're living with. The last couple of, the 10th and the 18th was a nightmare. You turn the water on and there isn't any. So that we're getting to the point where there's a potential date and the possibility, a very positive possibility of getting a grant to expand the scope of the project without increasing the cost to the homeowners is fantastic. Because that's always been the goal, to get our water system improved and to minimize the financial impact on the families in Worley Homes. And I certainly appreciate the effort, because grants are a challenge. And please let us know if there's anything that the homeowners can do to support that effort. Because again, we do need to get our water system situated and fixed. It's terrible. I know that my neighbor has 3 small children, and there was no water, and the notifications were after the fact. It's a wonder that people are just not running out in the roads, just screaming and yelling. I thought about it, but I didn't want to get picked up as some kind of crazy person. So, again, it's just a matter of supporting what's being done now and pursuing that grant. And we will continue to stay in contact. But you know that your constituents are really hoping that this can move along as quickly as possible. And just wanted to, again, extend my appreciation for the efforts on our behalf.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Lorette Giardino. My question is, now this system is starting to break down. We've lost 2 days, no water. Time you come to start putting water in from your system, if this system completely breaks down and we have no water, period, what are we going to do? Time to time we have no water, and time you put water in, hook us up. I'm scared this system's not going to last to the time you're ready to hook us up.
Well, that once we take ownership of the system, then we do whatever necessary needs we have to make sure that you have water. The Board of Health wouldn't allow anything else.
Okay, so you're guaranteeing that we're going to have water if this system breaks down?
Yeah, right now, that's why we're going to be doing a interconnection with Fishkill Plains for the temporary of giving you a water source.
Okay.
And that's why that solution doesn't prove to be a long-term solution for the Board of Health, and that's why we get higher points for the grant.
Okay.
The higher, the more points that we get, the more likely we would be approved it. And Fishkill Plains, like the engineer indicated, we rehabbed the wells there, which gave us more gallons, which is allowing us to do a temporary connection for Worley and for Revere Park. But we need to run the line down 376 to connect to our wells here for the permanent
Okay.
solution.
All right, this temporary, when do you think it will be hooked up?
Scott, if for the temporary hookup to Fishkill Plains, we have to do that
Well, there's a
500.
process, we have to take ownership.
Yeah.
Then we have to do the design work, okay? Submit to the health department, go out to bid, construct, Board of Health approval to operate. So, I said summer of 2000.
So next summer.
Probably, that might be a little conservative, but,
Okay.
Got the health department involved as well.
So we got to keep our fingers crossed we have water.
So her question is, what would happen in the interim that their wells fail?
Well, when you say a well fail, it could be a well pump that gets replaced. We have well pumps that fail. If it's a water main break, it gets repaired. These things can be, it doesn't improve the quality of the water, or the pressure of the water, but it gets you water. It gets you what you have now.
All right, as long as you guarantee it's water, that's all I care about. Okay, thank you.
Sure. Anybody else wish to speak on the public hearing for,
The only thing I did want to correct, I'm
Yes.
sorry, it's 895, not 865, it's 895.
895,
895.
right? That's the new number from the
Page is that on, Scott?
Office of State Control. That's
That
in
is
the
on
map
page
plan and
two.
report.
I don't know if you have the actual.
This was given to you last month.
Yeah, yeah.
Anybody else wish to speak on the public hearing for Hopewell West Water District? No, anybody else on the board has any comments, questions, concerns before we move forward? No? Okay, with that, do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Public hearing is now closed. Do I have a motion to adopt the negative declaration and inform the district?
So move.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Congratulations, the town owns soon-to-be the Hopewell West Water District. Okay, we're gonna go back up to number one. We're going to, do I have a motion to open the adjourned zoning amendments law hearing, public hearing?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Public hearing is now reopened. So we have been doing the zoning amendments for 6 months, 8 months, a long time. And somebody bet me $1 that we wouldn't finish this in under a year. So I'm hoping we could get it done tonight.
How close are we to the dollar?
Tonight, if we pass it, I win.
Are you splitting that $1 with the rest of us?
No, you got more dollars than me.
Make a motion to table this?
No.
So, we have been discussing the Hopewell Hamlet and Route 52 corridor revitalization special permit, we've been calling it. And Michelle, would you give us a little overview of some of the changes that we were discussing? Just an overview of the whole thing.
Sure. So, I've presented before, and we're basically hoping to revitalize the town's commercial corridors, the main commercial corridors, the Hopewell Hamlet corridor and the Route 52 corridor, by allowing residential uses and mixed uses in these corridors. And mainly within the downtown business sections. So there's actual locations that the corridor, that special permit would apply to. And in the Hopewell Hamlet, it is essentially from Trinca Lane to Orchard Place, which is just before the bridge. And then also we, based on feedback from the Economic Development Committee and the town board in previous meetings, we're going to also extend the special permit from essentially Fishkill Plains to the rec center along the Route 376 corridor. And those would be two properties fronting 82 and 376, essentially. There are several conditions that the properties would have to meet. Parking, some design guidelines that we're proposing, but essentially it would allow residential above ground floor commercial on a parcel, or also a mixed-use parcel where there is commercial and residential uses on the same parcel. That's to revitalize and hopefully provide incentive to improve some of the properties in the hamlet and also on the Route 52 corridor.
Right, and so everybody knows that this isn't, this doesn't skip the planning board. This is just allowing them to have a permit to do some changes and to allow different zoning in the parcels along those corridors that she mentioned. They still have to come to the planning board for approval for the design and architectural review board and everything else. So, but this is going to help the town with economic development. We have identified the two corridors where the business districts mainly are. Route 52 by IBM over there, the Global Foundries, and in the hamlet here. Some people were discussing how saying that the town center is going to be at iPark. That is, let me tell you, that is never going to happen. The town center is here in Hopewell Junction, in our hamlet, and this is why we are doing this, to ensure that our town survives and thrives, and the businesses and the property owners thrive here. Without doing this, we're going to be left behind. Other towns are doing it. People are just going to skip us and go somewhere else where it's better to do business. And why wouldn't they? They don't want to come to a town that's going to be bogged down with regulations and everything else. Of course, they have to meet all the laws and do everything properly, but we have to give them the ability to do it, to bring their businesses here, bring construction here, bring the jobs to our town. So if somebody says that the town is going to be empty in 5 years, that's a lie. This town's going to be thriving more than all the surrounding towns in 5 years. I guarantee it. Thank you, Michelle, for that. Does the board have any concerns or questions? I mean, we've been going through this a long time now.
After we adopt this, is there some process we could take in notifying the fire district which buildings will have residential above them?
Everything goes, when we have the planning process, the FAB has every single project that goes in front of them also. So they get to have their say as to what they want to see, and then in turn it goes to the fire district.
Thank you.
The only comment, I mean, this is a long time needed for the town. I think it's one of the greatest things that we probably could have put together. As I said before, my only concern, I hope that while this is going on, at the same time, we'll be able to also address the traffic on Route 82 with the turnarounds. That is my only concern, but otherwise, I think it's very well needed, and it's a long time in the doing.
You're absolutely right, Councilman. If we need to get those grants, Michelle, any notice on the?
No, I'm afraid that we were affected by the government shutdown and hearing about the CMAQ funds that we applied for, because they include federal funding. So the only thing that they would tell me is that it would be sometime this winter. So winter ends around March 21st. So I'm hoping that in the next 3 weeks we'll hear something.
Okay, so we did apply for a grant for traffic improvements down the Route 82 corridor in the hamlet from Trinkle Lane to Unity, and a bypass road that will go to the back to Fishkill Road. If we're waiting to see if we would get approved for those funds. If so, then the town board will start commencing public hearings and public meetings to discuss this with the business owners and the residents about this. We did have a workshop last year to lay out the grand plan, which we would hope to get funding for. That was a $10 million plan. That would be wonderful, but anything will help. So we keep applying every year, no matter what, for these fundings, because we have to. But we can't just sit and wait for that. We have to move forward. We have to give have laws in place to allow businesses to come here. I do have some concerns in the first page for B, number 2. for the mixed-use building and mixed-use parcel. So on there, it says each of the ground floor to be at least half, 50% ground floor square footage facing the street used for retail or restaurant use. And on the mixed-use parcel, 50% of the uses on the mixed-use parcel are non-residential. So I don't know if we should change that or leave that. That means if you build a building, the bottom floor has to be at least 50% retail. Now, if we have multiple buildings coming in town doing that, then we're gonna have an overstock of retail, I'm afraid, maybe. I don't know, we don't know yet, because we don't know who's gonna come and want to do buildings. But is there any way we can have this, any portion of these standards go to the ZBA for relief?
Yes.
We could. So we could add that into the law? Because I feel that, say, in 2 years, there's 8 buildings that transformed, and they have retail on the bottom, and now we have a large stock of retail. I wouldn't want to see empty stores. I would rather see it used for something else.
And probably the ZBA would be very involved in existing buildings that want to convert, because I don't think you're going to take an existing building and necessarily fit it right into the dimensional requirements there.
Right.
So they're going to be before it, but yes, the ZBA can give relief.
Okay, because you're right, so we don't know the size of that. It could be 42% or something a little less than.
Especially since most of this area encompassed by this permit is already developed in some manner, either all residential or business, so that that makes it a conversion, really, to add. And when you do that, these kind of numbers don't necessarily fit each building.
Okay, so can we add in there, what language would we use to add in there?
I think we just add a clause at the end that the town board allows the zoning board to grant variances to the dimensional requirements.
Okay, great. Does-
Take
what-
care of that.
What does the town board think about that?
I think it's a good idea.
Yeah,
Raises a good
agreed.
point. So, Michelle, I remember at the time that we were discussing this, that we were thinking of not allowing certain type of business to be located in those first floor. Would that restriction, I mean,
So right now, with the way the special permit's written, the businesses that would be allowed are what's currently permitted in town. So it would just default to the underlying zoning as far as the uses.
It's the B1 uses
Correct.
in the B1 zone, which are your softer retail,
correct?
office type things.
Restaurant.
Yeah.
Also, on page 5, letter C, building height, there was a typo there. Maximum building height shall be 3 stories, not 4. And also E, building setbacks and lot coverage to be 50%, not 75%.
And we were going to add an H to be clarify the fact that a recreation fee is required with respect to any residential units,
Okay,
in an amount to be determined by the town board.
so we could add that to the end with?
Yes, that would be H.
Oh, to H. So page 5H,
Yeah.
recreational fee?
Right. Because as everyone knows, if a single-family home, a piece of property is subdivided, for each new home created, there's a one-time capital contribution of $6,000 into the dedicated recreation fund of the town, which can only be used to purchase more recreation land or to do capital improvements on our recreational facilities. So the modern trend now is that when you add an apartment issue, the board sets a different fee, maybe $4,000, whatever the board determines to be appropriate, as a contribution. And the theory behind that is that they won't be constructing any recreational facilities on site, so that they should make a contribution towards the general town recreation facility. So this would just enable you to do it, and then the town board would have to address that when the time came by setting a fee separately.
Okay, so then we'll add that to standards, page 5, letter H.
Right.
Okay. Anybody else have any changes or concerns or questions?
So, Nick, you said, page 5,
Page,
letter C, you said 4 stories?
3.
Three,
3.
right.
Okay.
Four is the typo.
Okay.
And then go down to E, lot coverage.
75 should be 50.
75 is going to be 50%,
Okay.
And there's
not 75. And then we'll add H for the rec fee. Okay, anybody else? Questions, concerns?
Thank you for all your work on this, Michelle.
No problem.
Yeah,
I just wanted
Michelle?
to really quickly mention the revision to the shared driveway special permit. We just made we're just cleaning up the existing shared driveway special permit, which currently is typically most of the shared driveways are in locations, especially in the R3 zone. And this revision affects only those properties actually in the New York City DEP watershed. And we're adding it because we want to encourage shared driveways in the areas where we won't have impervious surfaces, so that we can hopefully help with water quality. So it's to allow people to share a driveway that would otherwise have to create 2 separate driveways on larger lots. The lots have to be at least 3 acres, and that way they can avoid some environmental impacts, like either impacts to wetlands or steep slopes.
That'll save them costs, too.
Won't this also be under direction of New York State DOT?
New York City, right? It's up on the-
DOT's gonna tell you where you can put your driveways up.
Well,
it's
they'll
on
weigh in
state
on it,
road.
but a lot of the, believe it or not, along 52, say up in the mountain where it's in the city watershed, a lot of the B zone, business zone, is already previously developed residentially. But the back of many of the lots are residentially zoned. And so there's been some applications to the planning board to, divide the lot, and so this would give a little more flexibility to the planning board to protect the wetland area, particularly in the watershed area, by allowing, sometimes it, is easier to have an easement for a driveway. The lot will still have to have frontage on the state highway and all of those things. And this gives more flexibility to it. But it would only be initially applicable in the New York City watershed, because we've identified a few properties that are interested in dividing, and this would be a tool to lessen the impacts. And if it works there, then we can consider other areas perhaps.
There's a couple of properties that actually they pre-exist the shared driveway regulations that already have shared driveways, and this would help bring them into compliance.
I know, Tom, I spoke to you regarding this. Michelle, page 2, paragraph E. Do you
Parking.
mind going over the shared parking and on-street parking? Is that something in the future
Yes.
that we're putting in place?
Right, so with that section is the parking requirements. So if a current business property is going to add, say, 2 apartments, just as an example, they'll have to prove that there's sufficient parking on that site for that. It goes on further to say that the town board is encouraging these properties that are joining each other to have shared parking, not to have a curb that divides the 2 lots, but rather to have them that people can flow from one lot to the other, that it doesn't matter if someone's coming into my business, if they park in a lot right in front of my store or the next lot. And it's not a requirement, but it's an encouragement on the part of the applicants to start to share this.
So as far as the existing parking area, you would need some kind of an agreement from the existing partners?
Of course, if I'm going to say I'm going to share, then it might help my neighbor do it, so we could all do an agreement, the 3 property owners, to say, we're all responsible for this part of the lot, but anybody can park there. And they'll take out the curbs and help with the internal flow of traffic.
So that's something that would be put in a deed for the
Yes, then
property?
they would do an agreement, put in the, yep.
And the language of the special permit actually encourages connections between the plazas where possible, linkages and connections, because that will help with pedestrian activity as well.
Okay, any other comments, questions, concerns? No? Anybody from the public wish to speak on the Hopewell Hamlin Route 52 corridor revitalization special permit? No, not you, I'm sorry.
Hello. Question, with a 50-foot setback, I presume that's from the road curbside to the dwelling?
Which, are you referring to something in particular?
Not, I guess.
Oh, you mean just in general?
Yes.
If it's back, okay. Yes, it goes from the edge of the property line to the building.
Okay. And with shared driveways, is there any, I hope that this works in concert with the Route 82 modification, so that there'll be no left-hand turns, because what happens is when you get a buildup in the parking lots, say, for example, like at Dunkin' Donuts or the post office, you get a buildup, especially if somebody wants to make a left-hand turn out of there, and if there's only a 50-foot setback, you're going to have a jam in the parking lots.
Well, but this is, the current buildings, unless they would move their buildings.
No,
that wouldn't-
I'm
yeah.
not expecting anybody to move their building,
Right.
but what I'm suggesting is that no left-hand turn should be fundamental.
Well, that would be with the road improvements that I said that we went, we applied for the grant. If that would happen, they would want to do the 2 roundabouts and close out the middle lane. So there would be a raised medium there. You couldn't make a left turn.
Well, I understand that, but...
But also, I think the supervisor had indicated before, if you come in to do this, you still have to go to the planning board. And part of the planning process is going to be an analysis of how your parking and access in and out is going to work. So in that process, the 50-foot is a minimum, but that doesn't mean that it's going to prove that it has to be further back when you do, actually on a study of the traffic and the
Right.
parking, et cetera.
Okay. Well, I would think like the service road that was mentioned on the backside of Unity.
Yes.
Those are things that are, they're going to happen, otherwise
Absolutely.
you're going to get back up in the parking lot.
Right.
I suspect also just when a traffic study is done, depending on where any of the new development is, they may ultimately have to make some adjustments to existing curb cuts. They may have restrictions on left-hand, it just depends on what's proposed and how much traffic is coming through, because it's a state road, and the state will weigh in on what you can and can't do at those locations. And it'll be part of the environmental review of whatever development is proposed.
Is there adequate easement on either side of Fishkill Avenue because obviously that traffic's going to increase also?
On Fishkill Road,
Fishkill Road, I'm sorry, yes.
well, the.
There's a proposal for
right
a
now-
bypass road.
There's a proposal right now that
Well, there's 2 things on Fishkill Road. Just not only is the new proposal would be for a bypass road, which would solve the problem totally, but if you recall, when the Hopewell Glen project was approved, there's an interim traffic control that's proposed for there. If it happens, that would limit the churning coming out of Fishkill Road onto 82. It hasn't been triggered yet.
Okay.
Okay, but it's a interim measure that DOT has approved that will be implemented at DOT's discretion once they decide that intersection's tight.
So there's no actual design for that yet? Because I know a turnabout...
There is, I don't recall, it's many years ago it was done, but it was some striping, signage, and limitation of turns.
Okay, so the turnabout is out of the question at that?
At the
or
railroad,
realignment,
at the
or-
current spot where Fishkill Road comes to 82, it cannot be realigned because of the railroad crossing.
Okay.
Because it doesn't, it's a whole big, it's taken 5 years of bureaucratic reviews before they finally said they won't allow that to be relocated.
Okay.
That's why the bypass road is now the option being considered that would actually relocate Fishkill Road to come out into town by one of the rotaries.
I see. Okay, thank you.
And if people are asking themselves now, what is going on with this rotaries? There is nothing right now. We have a application for a grant, and we did have a workshop last year to discuss this thoroughly, and I will do it again so the people will be renewed on what that is.
But it's ultimately DOT's decision.
Ultimately, it's all DOT. These are
You
all
can
New York State roads.
comment on it, but it's their
Yes,
decision.
these are 376, 82, all these roads are not the towns, these are New York State roads. So, anybody else have questions, comments? Anybody else from the public? No. Okay, with that, do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Public hearing is now closed. Do I have a motion to adopt the negative declaration and the law?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Are we supposed
Aye.
to postpone this for a month?
No.
No.
Opposed? Thank you very much.
You're going to adopt the law as amended.
As amended, yes.
As amended, yeah, okay.
You just want $1.
Thank you, clerk. The deputy supervisor had me
Yes, I
on
know.
a side conversation here. And I'd like to thank all the professionals for all your help with this, very, very much. This was a long and tough job, and I really appreciate all your help. Thank you. And the people will be happy. In town, some people have been questioning about, oh, let's make the hamlet nicer, let's change the buildings. Well, you know, they're private owners, they're private property owners. We can't force them to do anything, but we can encourage, and this is encouraging. This will allow them to possibly have more rent roll, and if they have more rent roll, then possibly they can do a fixing on the appearance of their building to have a more cohesive look in our town. And that will be appealing to everybody and have more people move into our town. So, thank you very much, the town board, for passing this. Third public hearing is do I have a motion to open the adjourned town water improvement area?
So move.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Public hearing is now reopened. This is for the Hopewell North, right? Hopewell North Water District. So we've had this water improvement area since 2016. And basically, this was to fund the areas for the Hopewell North Water District, that the EPA is doing the water line down Route 82. Now, basically, what we're having another public hearing is that we need to make an amendment to it. And this is one of the modifications. We will need two modifications, but this is the first modification. And the town engineer, has sent a memo to the town board. Would the town engineer like to give an overview of the memo and a little description?
Sure. Well, back in 2016, we approved the map plan report for townwide water improvements that included Fishkill Plains, Revere Park, Hopewell Glen, the Hamlet, Hopewell North, which is the EPA project, and down on 52, Shenandoah Water System. So basically, it was all these various water systems in that map plan report to do certain improvements within each one. Since that time, as we've discussed, the project required for the EPA project has grown, a lot in scale and scope and cost, and we felt it appropriate to pull it out of that original map plan report and create it as its own individual improvement area, which is basically what this memo outlines. And with that, we've been, negotiating with the EPA to try to get the monies resolved in terms of their contribution, which we think we've accomplished that. And, now it's time to move forward with this additional borrowing so we can, move this project along and meet their schedule.
Okay. And like I said in my comments, this was where we were wrangling with the EPA about the dollars, how much they're going to pay us back. It is stipulated here in the map plan and report. And where the route, the proposed 3,900 linear feet of the water main will be run. And any comments, questions from the board?
One thing people are asking is how much longer, what do we think, are we on schedule? What are we on schedule to turn the water on up that way?
Up on 82? I'm going to say probably 2 years out
For house connections.
for house connections, yeah.
So we have to provide them water by the time they're available to hook up the first house. So we have a backup plan just in case if our plan isn't done yet.
Because we're a little bit delayed because they had the government shutdown. and we couldn't
Right.
meet, and-
No, I mean, people are
Yeah.
just asking, you know, with all the traffic going across back and forth up on 82 a while back, they,
Plus, if everybody remembers, we had to rebid.
Yep.
Because the bids came in so high and we rebid another.
But just, if I may, I'd just like to describe this borrowing
Yes.
as like a line of credit, because we know we're going to get almost $4.5 million from the EPA, and this borrowing combined with the other borrowing we did is like a $6 million project, so that we have to build the improvements before they pay us. So this, it would establish, if the town board approves it, a line of credit for us to draw on, so the improvements can be done. Then when the check comes in from the federal government, the credit line is paid down and it's extinguished. Another contribution to the project is the town engineer had worked with Toll Brothers, and instead of building a separate tank on their property, they have contributed $1 million towards this project, so that the new tank that's up in our rec field now is, instead of over there, it's serving more people and a greater purpose. So that this resolution tonight, if adopted by the board, establishes the credit line so the system can be completed. And then as soon as the federal government gives us the check, we can pay it off and go on with life. So,
Yeah, that was,
Give us that check.
that's what I said in the meeting. I said, when do we get the check? I asked for an interim payment, a partial payment, so.
and I would like to say, we do have a letter from the regional director of the Environmental Protection Agency committing them to make the contribution. Before we borrow on this, they'll give us a revised letter with the higher amount. But it's not like we don't have anything from the
Right,
feds.
yes. The first time the attorney did have them prepare a letter, at least, so we had something to base our borrowings on. But this does improve other water districts as well. So this whole plan for the new Hopewell North Water District, in turn, is going to help out Hopewell Hamlet and many other districts. So it's a wonderful thing, actually. Anybody on the board have any comments, questions, concerns? Anybody from the public wish to speak on the amendment to the Hopewell North Water District, the water improvement area? No? Okay. With that, do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
so moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Public hearing is now closed. Do I have a motion to adopt the negative declaration and the order?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approved, thank you very much. That's the third. The last public hearing of the night is the peddler's permit law. Do I have a motion to open the peddler's permit law public hearing?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Public hearing's now opened. Last meeting, we had a discussion at our town board workshop on the peddlers and soliciting law. Could the attorney give us a little overview?
Sure, this, we currently have a peddler's law, but it was adopted decades ago, and it needed some refreshing. So this law is a refreshing of that. It modernizes the terminology. It requires that anyone who wishes to go door to door to peddle in the town must come in and register with the town clerk. There's a background check, if you will, done to ensure that they're a legitimate business. It's a requirement of insurance so that we know if they damage property or get injured on someone's property, there's coverage. And it also formalizes the do not call list. So this law will formally allow residents of the town to register with the town clerk to indicate that they do not wish anyone to call at their home to sell a product or goods. It does not, because we cannot, prohibit anyone who goes door to door for religious purposes or political purposes. Those are regulated through the Constitution of the United States, and we cannot put infringements on that. So this regulates anyone else who might go door to door. It's an additional layer of protection to the residents. It also allies fears of safety if someone says, oh, there's a car in the neighborhood, et cetera. It will hopefully give us a better handle to be able to allow residents to know who's traversing their streets and ringing their doorbells. And basically, that's a summary of what this law is.
Okay, great. Like I said, we discussed this at the workshop, and basically, to add to what the attorney said, the police department needed to have some sort of teeth to the law.
Yes.
So this will provide them with that.
And this has the chief's seal of approval, this law, I think.
Yes.
He lives in Newburgh.
And thank you to the chief and the clerk on your assistance with this. Any board members have any comments, questions, concerns?
Just to add that the Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, and volunteer firefighters are
Yeah,
not
exempt.
applicable under this, so they're
Exempt.
exempt. Yeah. I know that was a couple questions that came up.
Question for the clerk. How often do people come and request to be on this list?
I
And
have
we have it updated?
590 people on the list currently.
And growing?
Can you add me to this list?
You can add your, you can go right on the website, there's a little pull-down menu that says no door-to-door registration, takes about 2 seconds, you put your name, your address, and your email, and your phone number if you'd like, and we add you. The county downloads it to an Excel spreadsheet for me, we probably do it more often now, maybe once a month, maybe every 2 weeks, depending on the activity. I import the Excel spreadsheet, I clean it up, and I give it to every person that solicits in the town. And I have their email as well, and as soon as it updates with new people, I give it to the people, to the solicitors as well.
And you said again, people can go online and do this?
Oh,
Just-
yeah, it takes 2
Okay.
seconds, right on the East Fishkill website.
Okay, thank you.
We have a very interactive website, Councilman. So you know, you can use it.
But currently, the last count, 2 weeks ago, I had 590 people on it.
Wow.
Wow.
How many registered peddlers do we have?
Right now, I don't know how many people we have going around right now. I've had 3 people not pick up a permit that chose, yeah, right now I only have 1 person so far. Unless they're riding off of last year's, but
But it's a little cold, and
it's a little cold. So right now, we only have 1 person.
Pizza delivery have to go.
They should.
Do not deliver list?
Any other questions,
Do not
comments?
deliver list.
So say a resident's being pestered by a peddler, what do they do? Who do they call?
They call the town, or they can call the PD.
PD.
Mr. Farmer.
Matt does put restrictions on when someone's issued a permit, no, soliciting after dark, and must wear your badge, and identify yourself, and also the police department wants to know if they're going around, so that they're aware of it.
Right. Anybody else have any questions, concerns? Yes, ma'am.
Lorette Giardino again. Now, you said they wear a badge when they go around, so people
They're
identify.
supposed to wear their own identification from their
Okay,
respective
I was going to ask, how do
companies.
we know that they're registered if they don't have some type of ID? Now, is there a photo ID on that badge?
It depends on, that's issued by their company, usually, their company gives them. We don't, the town doesn't give them one.
Oh, okay, I'm going to say, so if a company doesn't give them ID, can they get ID here from you, that they have a photo
No.
ID?
Yeah.
So we know that they are registered with you?
Part of
they supposed to display
the process is they have to give us 2 pictures, so we have pictures of it, but we can't issue them an ID, they're not.
But they have to display their permits, don't they, when they're
Yes,
peddling?
Yes.
yes, they're
That's one
supposed to
way that
display
you
the
could
permit.
identify
Okay, so you, yeah,
Yes.
so, and it has to be
Yes.
displayed that we can see it when they come
Yes.
to the door?
Yes,
You
Okay.
can say, can I see your permit?
and I see your permit, yes.
All right.
Thank you. Okay. With that, anybody else wish to speak on the peddler's law? No? With that, do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Public hearing is now closed. Do I have a motion to adopt a negative declaration and form the, and form the law?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Law passed. Thank you very much.
You're happy, yeah?
Yes, I'm happy.
We have 3 hearings tonight for unsafe buildings. Is anybody here on behalf of 862 Route 82, 880 Route 82, or 37 Carroll Drive? Please come forward.
$880?
880. Okay. So, what is the status of your building?
Oh, it's not got a roof, it's just ducky. The status is we're waiting on money from the insurance company, and then we're gonna demolish it.
Okay, do you have right now any notification from your insurance company? Any companies that you have contacted or contracted with?
Well, let me back it up a second. It's not the insurance company that's the problem, it's the mortgage company. We got the money from the insurance company, which was made out to the mortgage people and the insurance company, and us. We had to send it down to the mortgage people who are sitting on the money.
Okay, your husband's Michael?
Correct.
Yes, okay. So, yes, I wasn't sure if Michael was 880 or 862. So, yes, he came in yesterday, and I spoke to him, and he explained that,
Yeah.
with the mortgage, and now the remainder, it needs at least 45 days, the bank said. He did tell me that you have contacted 2 companies.
Yes.
So I request, if the board could give another 60 days to 880 Route 82.
Yeah, I have no
Is
problem.
that okay?
Yeah.
Okay, I need a motion?
Motion.
So
Do I have a motion to give 60-day extension? Second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anybody from 862 Route 82? Okay, anybody from 37 Carroll Drive? How are you? Good, thank you. Are you Thomas Restatino?
No, we're
Okay.
not. He's in the city. We're here
No, he's
speaking on
here.
his behalf.
I'm
He's
actually
here.
here.
Yeah.
I came up.
Oh,
Derek?
no.
Oh, sorry.
I work for Derek.
Okay. I'm glad you came. No, sorry. Actually, I sent you an email.
Yes, I have it right here.
Yeah, I came up.
Okay.
I just wasn't sure, so this is the company that's taking care of it. They, I believe, got the paperwork to do it, and.
Remodeling Concepts, that's you?
Yes, sir.
Okay, very good. So, you know the process to get the building permit from the demo permit from the building
Yes, sir.
department? Okay, very good. So, then as far as that goes, then that,
You want to grant them 30 days to get the permit?
sure. That
Okay.
sounds good. 30 days would be enough, sir?
That's perfect.
Okay, do I have a motion to extend 30 days for 37 Carroll Drive? Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 30 days more. Thank you very much. And 862 Route 82, anybody here on behalf of them? I did have a call from the attorney for the property owner, but I did not speak to them. So, right now, we have one property on a 60-day and one on a 30. Should we give another 30 days?
Well, just so the board's aware, if you determine tonight that this building is dangerous and it should be demolished, the order would have to be prepared, delivered to the owner, and the law requires that they get 20 days within which to satisfy that requirement. So one option would be to adopt an order tonight ordering its demolition, and theoretically, they're going to have at least 30 days to,
What was his status 60 days ago? What was his answer?
pardon me?
What did he say 60 days ago? Because what, didn't
He
he say
he was going to come in and get a demo permit. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he said he was gonna get a demo permit within 60
And then
days.
he waited 2-3 weeks before he contacted anybody.
So does the board wish to have an order for the building to be demolished and give him 20 days notification?
It's been 60 days, correct? And he
Right.
hasn't done it? So, yeah, I think so. I
Any
think they
further
need-
communication since?
No, just from the attorney, and I didn't get to speak to them today. But, I mean, they could've came tonight. We did give them 60 days extension last time.
We did.
So do I have a motion to have an order of demolition for 862 Route 82?
Let's make sure it's the right building.
Right.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried, thank you very much. Okay, did everybody receive the January 24, 2019 minutes?
Do we want to let some of the kids go that needs things
Sure,
signed?
would the kids like to come up and sign your papers?
Yeah.
Did it already.
No, I think there are a couple that want.
If any,
I only got over half of them. There's about 3 back there that still gotta be signed.
if so, come forward now if you want your paper signed, if not, you gotta wait to the end. Have a good night, sir.
Take care, Mike.
2-minute break. Mike's going to commercial.
These are Colabella children, they don't get to, they sign, nobody signs. You want me to sign it, Carol, so you can leave too?
No, sorry, Carol.
I tried to get the one thing adjourned to the next month so Nick would lose $1.
Sorry. So, everyone received the minutes from January 24th? Clerk, was there any modifications or
No, there was
comments made? No? Do I have a motion to approve the January 24th, 2019 minutes?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried, thank you. We do have 2 additions to the agenda tonight. One is the authorizing a parking restriction from Dutchess County, and the other is to authorize the purchase of the police canine. Okay, right now, we come to the point of courtesy of the floor. This is the point of the meeting where anybody in the audience, in the public, wish to speak to the town board on any general town issues, anything on the agenda, anything you wish. If you want to come forward, please speak.
Did I tell you what one of the girls said, Nick?
You can please stand up, please.
One of the girls said your comments are too long in the beginning and they're not coming back here anymore.
I don't blame them.
Totally threw that kid under the bus. Way to go,
So the
Bob.
question is, how come it doesn't happen to you that way then, Bob? Anybody wish to
Very
speak
good.
in the meeting?
Notice
top
they
that.
left before Bobby got up.
Said his piece. Let's go.
Anything on general town issues or the agenda tonight? No? Okay. I had a letter for receipt and file, clerk. You received that, correct?
Yes,
From the East Fishkill Historical Society, which I read earlier. Resolutions. Okay, Resolution 1, awarding highway bids. Deputy Supervisor, would you read that?
Whereas the town board previously authorized the advertisement of bids for various materials and supplies utilized by the highway department, and whereas the bids are received by the town clerk and a summary has been prepared, it is the desire of the town board to award said bids to the lowest responsible bidders. Now therefore be resolved that the bids for materials and goods for the highway department as set forth in the attached schedule and being labeled the lowest responsible bidder be and hereby is awarded by the town board.
Thank you, Deputy Supervisor. Do I have a motion to award certain highway bids?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion. No discussion?
So, I was going through some of the figures, and some of the numbers, some companies charge a little more than others.
It's responsible bidders.
Yeah. So, do you use them interchangeably, or you stick with one? How does that work?
We'll use the lowest bidder.
Providing they can, they have the service.
Providing they can do the job.
The product we need, then we can go to the next lowest bidder.
So you could switch if you, about using the heavy equipment, like with the operator. Can you do the same over there, or you stick with the guy?
A lot of the stuff, we have a lot of our own equipment now, so in this case, if we do need that, we would go with the lowest bidder,
Okay.
if needed.
Anything, Kenny, did you want to add anything else? No. Okay. Have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried, thank you. Number 2, authorize police department to enter into a contract. Councilman Marinaro, would you read that?
So authorizing a radio system for the police department, whereas the chief of police has received 3 quotes for radio system for their departments, and whereas the chief of police has recommended to the board that the board enter into a lease agreement with A1 Communication System Incorporation, since they are the lowest quote. And whereas said proposal provides for a monthly cost of $1,380.28 per month for a 36-month period for various equipment. And whereas that 30 Kenwood portable radios would be donated to the town at the end of the 36-month period. And now therefore be it resolved that the supervisor be and hereby is authorized to execute an agreement with A1 Communication System Incorporation as per the terms attached to this document.
Thank you, Councilman. Do I have a motion to authorize radio system for the police department?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion. Chief, you want to give a little background onto why the decision to change radios?
Yeah, sure. The radios that we have now, we have A1 Communications now, but the quality of the radios,
Michelle, can you pass him a microphone? Thank you. Thank you, Chief.
we have A1 Communications now as our vendor. The quality of the radios that we have now are not great. We've had a lot of issues in the past, and it's clearly an officer safety issue. So in meeting with all these companies who are all very good, the idea was if we could make an upgrade in the portable radio, which is the radio you'd see on the officer's side, that would hopefully improve communication and we would have a lot less problems. The Kenwood radios that we're going to are public safety rated, higher quality radios. We've done a lot of testing on them. And this really comes down to trying to improve the safety of the officers and being able to communicate with the officers. You know, that's why it's a little more costly than our bill is now, but we feel that the safety aspect far outweighs the cost. Also, A1 did give us the best quote, as you guys have, but it was, we did a lot of work with each of these companies who are all very professional and really worked with us to give us the best prices they could for what we were looking for.
Thank you, Chief. And I know you did a lot of testing and going up the mountain in different areas of town, which we usually have poor radio connectivity, and these were the best, so.
Yes.
Great. Anybody has any comments or questions?
What is the lifespan, do you think, of these radios?
The quality of the radios are excellent. There may be, I would say right now, even with the poor radios that we have now, they've been here for several years, over 5 at least. So I would say at least that, although there may be some things coming down the pike, and that's why we entered into a 3-year agreement, because there may be newer radio systems coming.
Right.
So, through the county.
So Dutchess County has indicated possibly of doing a county-wide radio system for all emergency responders, highway departments, and if that would go through, that would be a service through Dutchess County, which would be awesome. Would be awesome.
Sure would.
Go ahead.
It says we get the radios at the end of 3 years.
Yes.
So does this $1,400 a month include like rental on the radios, or?
It's like a lease.
It's a lease agreement.
Like a lease to
For
own?
the,
Except at the end, there are the
Yeah.
radios. Yeah.
so there's not a purchase price for the radios on top of the
No.
contract?
No, it's,
Okay.
they're donating them at the end of the 3 years.
It's another toy
We
for you
paid
to
for
play
it.
with.
Yeah, that's the other word for buy, donation.
Yeah. Well, no. Lifespan's 3.5 years.
I believe that the radios they're using now, they gotta be at least 7 years old, right?
Yeah, I believe so. I think we went in 2012, I believe.
Yeah.
I remember definitely testing them when I was on midnights, and
Yeah.
that was a while ago.
Wow.
Definitely
Yeah,
needed.
Long time ago.
When you put in your time, huh?
All right, so I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you very much. Number 3, schedule a hearing for a building on Old Hook. Councilman Beepam, would you read it?
Whereas the town board is vested with the power to declare certain structures unsafe in accordance with the law. Whereas the town engineer has recommended that the town board consider condemnation action on unsafe structures at 16 Old Hook Road as per his attached memo. And whereas it is now the recommendation of the town supervisor that the board authorize a hearing regarding unsafe structure proceedings, and be it further resolved that the town board will conduct a hearing regarding the above-named structures on April 25th, 2019.
Thank you, Councilman. The town is on a kick with getting rid of the unsafe structures, so if you have one, come to town hall and get a demo permit before we do a hearing. Do I have a motion to schedule a hearing for the building on Old Hook Road?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion?
So this is pretty much the same situation like we
Exactly.
dealing with
Correct,
the other
yeah, the
structure.
building is still dilapidated,
Yeah, yeah.
and fallen down, so.
Have we communicated with these homeowners as yet, or the property owner?
They usually are given several order to remedy,
Oh,
and they don't,
okay.
they're unresponsive, I guess, at this point. And in this case, the building is what you would consider an attractive nuisance that people could get in
Still
and
an antenna on that thing.
perhaps set it on fire or something.
And also, children, they wander about and who knows where they go. They could enter in these buildings. If they're not safe, it could collapse right on top of them, so it's, has to be taken care of. I have a motion and a second. Any other comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried, thank you. Number 4, appoint an alternate for the planning board. Councilman Franco, would you read it?
Whereas the planning board is made up of 7 members and 2 alternates, whereas the planning board chairperson is requesting the town board to fill a vacant alternate position, it is necessary for the town board to appoint an alternate to the planning board for a period of 4 years in accordance with the provisions of town law. Now therefore be it resolved that Christopher Tamalonis be and hereby is appointed as an alternate to the planning board for a period of 4 years.
Thank you, Councilman. Do I have a motion to appoint Christopher Tamalonis for an alternate to the planning board?
So move.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion? The town board did interview Mr. Tamalonis last month, and he has extensive experience in planning. He is an engineer, and he is a Stormville resident, and he was a very bright guy.
And he doesn't work for IBM?
You don't work for IBM? No? Any other discussion? Okay, motion is second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you very much. Number 5, set a public hearing for water improvements in Revere Park. The town board previously adopted a Revere Park Water District, and the district is in need of some repairs. It is the desire of the town board to hold a public hearing to consider the First Amendment to the map plan. This is going to be the second amendment. Tonight, we did the First Amendment to the map plan and report. This is going to be the second. For the townwide water improvement area in regards to Revere Park. Town board will conduct a public hearing at 7 PM, March 28, 2019, at the regular town board voting meeting, and that the town clerk being hereby is authorized to advertise notice of said public hearing. Do I have a motion to set the public hearing?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion. The only discussion is it will be amended to say Second Amendment to the map plan and report. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried, thank you. Number 6, authorize police to attend active threat integrated response course. Councilman Marinaro, would you read it?
Whereas the chief of police has indicated his desire to send 1 lieutenant and 1 police officer to attend the active threat integrated response course for law enforcement. The training will be from March 11th through March 13th, 2019, at 1500 Airport Road, Orange County, New York. And whereas the expenses to the town will be for the tolls and meals, now therefore be it resolved that the town board does hereby authorize the chief of police to send 1 lieutenant and 1 police officer to attend the training course from March 11 to 13, 2019, as said address before. Be it resolved that in addition to the cost of tolls and meals, they will be paid their normal salary during said period.
Thank you, Councilman. Do I have a motion to authorize the police to attend this training?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion? They won't be eating too much, right, Chief?
No, I think so.
No? Maybe the lieutenant more than the
Oh, yeah.
officer?
Take a brown bag.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried, thank you. We have 2 additions. Okay. Deputy Supervisor, would you read the authorizing parking restriction?
Parking? Read the dog.
On the bottom.
That's not for you.
Next one in line. Whereas the town board wishes to streamline the vehicle and traffic regulation process, and whereas the town board wishes to amend the vehicles and traffic regulations by resolution, and now therefore be it resolved that the town board will conduct a public hearing at its regular meeting, March 28th, at 7 PM to consider the adoption of local law entitled, what letter? What number?
Until it's adopted, it doesn't
Until
get a
it's
number.
adopted, it doesn't get a number.
Regulating traffic control parking within the town.
Thank you, Deputy Supervisor. No, there's no number, but after the 24 years of on the board, we figured that you would know the numbers by now.
Probably A.
We haven't done letters in
If we do
in
letters, that
11
means
years.
it's not adopted.
Yeah, it's
Numbers
not
go on like
adopted.
that.
We haven't done it in 11 years.
Do I have a motion to authorize the public hearing for the parking restriction?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion? So Dutchess County sent me the request to propose this parking restriction on Beekman Road. They are going to be doing road repairs. So in the summer months, I believe, is that correct?
Right.
Engineer, right?
They need it by the end of April.
They need it by the end of April, so we need to make a change to our law to allow that.
Would it be a permanent,
Yes.
And actually, the law will also, it's going to streamline the process that we follow, because now, every time you want to do a traffic control device or parking, you have to hold a public hearing, and it's a lengthy process. If you adopt this law, it's going to allow you to set those regulations by resolution in the future, which would make it a quicker response if there's a need for parking, stop sign, or speed signs.
Great. Thank you. So I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried, thank you. Next resolution is authorize the purchase of police canine. Councilman Beepan, would you read it?
whereas the police chief has requested the town board to authorize the purchase and training of a K-9 for the police department, and whereas the K-9 will be coming from Shallow Creek Kennels, Inc. in the amount of $13,000. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board does authorize the supervisor to execute an agreement for the purchase and training of the police K-9 in the amount of $13,000.
Thank you, Councilman. Do I have a motion to authorize me to sign the contract?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion? Town board is very,
Police chief is awful needy.
police chief does get a lot. The police chief does get a lot. So, I know, though, that the police department is very happy and thankful to the town board for all that we do, so, and they deserve it. They do a great job. So I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
And they raised a lot of funds themselves, right?
Yes, they did.
raised a lot of money.
Yes, they
Efforts
did.
for
Wonderful
What is the
job.
total right now, chief?
I believe 16,300
Wow, that's terrific.
through the GoFundMe and other.
Yep.
And that's in addition to the check we received for the K-9.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The anonymous.
The anonymous
Yes.
check receipt for K-9.
Yes, it is.
Which was for 15,000.
Yes, which was for $15,000, so. Very, very generous donation. Okay, motion and second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried, thank you very much. That does it for resolutions. Okay. Town board member comments? Anybody on the board wish to speak about anything?
I'm just gonna make it brief because Carol is,
I got 15,
Writing
I got
fast.
15 pages, Carol. so go ahead,
she's
Councilman.
got something pointed on my waist, I can't. So I just wanna say that, I wanna thank, all the volunteers, firefighters, the police department, and of course, the highway department during the past month for the response. I know that talking to the highway superintendent, they say that now there is a coordination going with the police department, very active, which is very good for the community. I'm happy to hear that. So every time there is a storm, there is always communication between the three departments to expedite making sure that an ambulance gets where it needs to go with the assistance of the highway and the police department. Basically, also, the chief noted that there hasn't been much activity as far as the police getting involved with any big issues in our town, which is great. I think that the police department is doing a great job. Besides one incident which happens on February 19th, somebody that was driving under the influence of alcohol with a minor in the car, and our police department took care of that. And the person that was responsible for that is presently, taken care of in jail. So that's basically it. I want to thank everybody again, and great job.
Thank you, Councilman. Anything else, Councilman?
I would just like to thank the town for allowing the town board and professional staff to attend the Association of Towns. A number of us took very beneficial classes, informative classes that will benefit the town, and I know that the highway superintendent and I took a class on grants that we could use for potential infrastructure improvements, so we hope to further pursue those as well. I'd also like to make a note that the member of the Conti family lost their mother this past week. I'd like to extend our condolences to the Conti family. They've been a very big part of our fire service for quite some time, 2 generations actually, and on behalf of the town, our condolences. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman.
Thank you to our professionals, our first responders, our highway department. You guys are all doing a great job. Thanks to the supervisor spearheading this big zoning change, which has been great. So we're really looking forward to that, brand-new chapter in East Fishkill. And that's it. Everything's good so
Right.
far.
Deputy Soap?
Just like to thank Ken for staying on top of the snow and making sure that it only snows again on the weekends and the holiday pay time that's coming up this weekend. Doing a good job. Town Cleanup Day is March 30th.
Wow.
It's just around the corner, and snow should be gone by then. March 30th, we pick the roads up around the town. One of the biggest groups that actually step up and volunteer every year is actually East Fishkill Police Department. They show up with the biggest group. We are reaching out to all recreation, all the different groups to show up that day. And that's basically it.
Right. Well, thank you. I'd like to maybe make a motion that the Councilman Pan and the Highway Superintendent apply for our next grants, since they took the training classes down at the
Association.
Do it.
Association of Towns. But thank you all very much. Our next town board workshop meeting is March 14th, 2019. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Oh, I'm sorry. I have the highway superintendent, sorry, clerk, and the police chief if they would like to make statements. I'm sorry. Highway soup?
Since our workshop meeting, I gotta say, the last couple storms, the people have kept their cars off the road. It's been good.
Microphone.
The windstorm we had quite a bit of trees down. We were able to clean all that up, and that's pretty much it for the highway.
Excellent. Chief? All set?
We talked about him.
He got a kiss from the clerk, look at that.
Now, before we go, Michelle, could you give an overview of the zoning amendments one more time, please?
The whole code.
Professional staff?
Motion to adjourn,
So moved.
second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.